Imagine a time when the words "Made in America" meant excellence, pride, and global demand. Now imagine walking into a store overseas and seeing those same words treated as a warning sign, something to avoid. From smartphones to vehicles, from food to pharmaceuticals, a quiet but powerful movement is underway, and it's sending a chilling message back to American shores. Is Made in America losing its magic, or is it being pushed away by something much bigger? For most of the 20th century, the label Made in America wasn't just a tag, it was a badge of honor. From Detroit's roaring assembly lines to Silicon Valley's cutting-edge tech labs, American products symbolized innovation, reliability, and world-class craftsmanship. Whether it was a Chevrolet roaring down the highway, a Levi's jacket worn around the world, or a Boeing jet flying across continents, American-made meant the best money could buy. During the post-World War II boom, U.S. manufacturing wasn't just dominant, it was untouchable. Global consumers wanted American goods because they trusted them, trusted the materials, the workmanship, and the spirit behind them. American brands like Coca-Cola, Ford, IBM, and Motorola became global icons, woven into the very fabric of everyday life around the world. And it wasn't just about quality, it was about aspiration. Owning an American product meant joining a modern, prosperous, forward-thinking world. It meant having a piece of the American dream. But somewhere along the way, that image cracked. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the landscape began to shift. American companies started offshoring production to cut costs, chasing cheaper labor across Asia and Latin America. The result? Products that were still stamped "Made in America," but with declining quality, higher prices, or broken trust. Meanwhile, other nations, Japan, Germany, South Korea, rose with fierce competition, offering products that often outperformed American alternatives in reliability, affordability, and innovation. Yet the American brand still clung to its reputation until recent years, when deeper forces began to erode not just trust in products, but trust in America itself. Today, the world is asking a difficult question. If it's made in America, do we still want it? The answers are shaping a quiet rebellion, one that American industries can no longer afford to ignore. The fall of trust didn't happen overnight. It crept in, slow, steady, and almost invisible at first. It began with cost-cutting. As American corporations chased higher profits, many outsourced manufacturing overseas. Consumers overseas started noticing that Made in America sometimes meant assembled elsewhere, with cheaper materials and less reliable performance. The badge of quality that once set American products apart? It started to feel inconsistent, even deceptive. Then came the high-profile scandals. Automotive recalls on a massive scale, defective pharmaceuticals, controversies over food safety standards. Even iconic tech brands faced backlash for security flaws, data breaches, and manufacturing failures. Each incident chipped away at the trust global consumers once placed in American products. But it wasn't just about quality, it became about politics, too. Trade wars, tariffs, sanctions, diplomatic standoffs. For many global consumers, buying an American product wasn't just a purchase anymore, it started to feel like a political statement. In some regions, American goods were seen as symbols of interference, arrogance, or economic bullying. Quiet boycotts began emerging, not loudly broadcasted on news networks, but felt in subtle shifts in consumer behavior. Meanwhile, other countries rose to the occasion. Brands from Japan, South Korea, Germany, and even China entered the market with high-quality alternatives. Whether it was cars, electronics, clothing, or medical supplies, global consumers suddenly had choices. And they often found those alternatives to be more affordable, more reliable, and less politically complicated than their American counterparts. Add to that the explosion of national pride movements across Europe, Asia, and Latin America, movements that encouraged people to buy local or buy national, and the slow rejection of U.S. products accelerated. What was once the world's gold standard had, without much fanfare, become just another option, and not always the first choice. Today, in many parts of the world, When people see Made in America, they don't automatically think best. They pause, they question, and more, they walk away. The rejection of American-made goods isn't happening across the board, but in some industries, it's impossible to ignore. One of the hardest hit sectors is the automobile industry. Once symbols of status and freedom, U.S. car brands like Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler have lost significant market share internationally. Consumers in Europe and Asia now prefer vehicles from Japan, Germany, or South Korea, citing better fuel efficiency, reliability, and lower maintenance costs. Technology is another battlefield. While companies like Apple still dominate certain global markets, distrust in American tech has surged. Fears over data privacy, government surveillance, and geopolitical tensions have led many countries to favor local tech brands. In places like China, India, and Russia, there's a strong push to buy domestic devices and build independent tech ecosystems. Agriculture and food products have also taken a hit. Concerns about GMOs, chemical additives, and health standards have made many global consumers wary of American food imports. In Europe especially, the Made in America label on food is often seen with skepticism rather than trust. Even pharmaceuticals, once dominated by American companies, are facing competition from European, Indian, and Chinese firms offering cheaper alternatives. And then there's fashion. Fast fashion giants from Europe and Asia have stolen the spotlight from American brands that once symbolized global coolness. Across these industries, the pattern is clear. Consumers are no longer just buying a product, they're buying what it represents. And increasingly, Made in America no longer represents what it used to. The decline in trust toward American products isn't just about quality, it's deeply tied to politics and economics. Over the past decade, the U.S. has engaged in a series of trade wars, tariffs, and sanctions against multiple countries, from China and Russia to allies like the European Union. For many global consumers, buying American goods started to feel like supporting a country that uses its economic power as a weapon. Quiet resentment grew, and with it, a shift in buying behavior. At the same time, economic nationalism has risen around the world. Countries are now pushing buy local campaigns, urging citizens to support domestic industries instead of relying on imports, especially from the U.S. This trend has been particularly strong in places like China, India, and parts of Europe, where American influence is often seen as overbearing. Then there's the issue of pricing. Many American products are simply more expensive compared to local alternatives. Add fluctuating exchange rates, shipping costs, and import taxes, and suddenly, Made in America isn't just politically complicated, it's financially impractical for the average global buyer. And finally, there's the broader image of America itself. Political polarization, social unrest, and controversial foreign policies have damaged America's brand worldwide. Where American products once symbolized freedom and progress, today they sometimes symbolize instability and controversy. In short, it's not just about what's inside the box, it's about everything the box represents. Despite the setbacks, Made in America isn't doomed, but it faces a tough road ahead. For American brands to win back global trust, they'll need to do more than slap a label on a product. They'll need to prove that Made in America still stands for quality, innovation, and reliability, not just nostalgia. Some companies are already adapting. There's a growing movement toward reshoring manufacturing, bringing factories back to the U.S. to regain control over quality and supply chains. Brands that emphasize craftsmanship, ethical production, and transparency are seeing positive reactions both at home and abroad. Innovation could also be the key. If American firms continue to lead in fields like green energy, biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and space exploration, they could rebuild the global perception of American excellence. But it won't happen automatically. Trust must be earned, not assumed. Meanwhile, global competition is only getting stronger. Brands from Europe, Asia, and even emerging markets are aggressively improving their quality, cutting costs, and building deep emotional connections with local consumers. In this new landscape, simply being American made is no longer enough to guarantee success. The future of Made in America will depend on actions, not words. It's a future where every product, every service, and every customer interaction must deliver real value, or risk being quietly rejected. The world is watching, and in this new global marketplace, trust isn't inherited, it's earned.